Okay. Hi, welcome back to my channel and my Joe Flacco jersey. I know you noticed it. Today, we are going to be talking about Cobra Kai Season 6, Part 1. I'm extremely excited to talk about this show. I have a lot of things to say. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! If you have not seen Cobra Kai through Season 6, Episode 5, or if you have not seen any of the Karate Kid movies, and without further ado, let's get started. Okay, before we get started, let's just do a couple quick housekeeping procedures. Number one, if you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Megan. I am an associate attorney by day, and by night I make videos about film and television shows. So if you're new here, please consider liking, subscribing, checking out some of my other videos. You can ignore the ones where I was doing a bunch of painting stuff. You can see in the background, that's just basically how the painting projects turned out. Number two, I would like to come onto my channel right now and do a formal apology. In my last video, I made a very big faux pas, and it was brought to my attention after I uploaded it. When I was reviewing the Cobra Kai trailers and all of the first look images and stuff like that, there was that scene where we see somebody punching a ball that was coming out of a pitching machine. And I thought at first this person was Anthony LaRusso, which I was horrified at the very thought, because he's going to break his little baby hands if he was ever attempting to do that. After watching the clip at quarter speed and after people pointed it out in my comment section, I realized that this was actually Miguel that was punching the ball, not Anthony. Now, does it make more sense that Miguel would be willing to punch a ball that was coming out of a pitching machine? Yes. Does it make any more sense knowing that it's Miguel, considering the fact that probably nobody could punch a ball coming out of a pitching machine without breaking their fucking knuckles? You know, I'll let you be the judge of what we believe and don't believe in this season of Cobra Kai. I will say, just in my defense, I can never see Miguel wearing a shirt like that. I think that it looks much more like a dweeby outfit that perhaps Anthony LaRusso of middle school era would wear. I'm willing to admit my faults in the very few instances that they occur. Finally, I just want to reiterate, I happen to be something of a second-degree black belt, a washed-up second-degree black belt, as I trained in Taekwondo growing up, and I spent 11 years of my life training in martial arts. While I am no longer, actively training, obviously, as you can tell by my fabulous physique, as weird and over-the-top as certain things are about the way people practice karate in this show, I can relate to some of the other aspects, and it makes it really enjoyable for me to watch, and that's always kind of the perspective that I'm giving when I do reviews of this particular show. It also gives me full authority to judge the fuck out of every single time someone throws a side kick without pivoting their bottom foot. It also gives me full authority to point out literally every single time someone bows incorrectly, because despite what was said in the first Karate Kid movie, bowing with eye contact is not what you do in Japanese culture. Now, I know what you're thinking. Every martial arts culture is different. Maybe this is something that Miyagi-Do was supposed to teach and that was fine in that culture, but whatever you trained is different. And, that's fair. I trained in Taekwondo, which was based in South Korean, and this is based in Japanese. For the purposes of this video, and for the purposes of no longer making any mistakes in any of the content that I release, I actually booked a flight to Japan a year ago in anticipation of this season to get my facts straight and to confirm whether people actually make eye contact when they bow. I'll just roll the footage and show you how that went. I think these people get to train in much cooler locations than I do. Even bowing with their eyes down. I don't make this stuff up. I guess I confirmed that. Now I don't know what else to do here. Why else did we come here? Do I get some lunch or something? Okay, let's go. Before we get into season 6, I think it's important to kind of just briefly recap what happened at the end of season 5, because a lot of crazy shit went down in the final 2 episodes, and I think it's worth mentioning because it also kind of tees up my thoughts and impressions going into season 6 and like what I was kind of expecting with these new episodes. If I were to describe the end of season 5, I would describe it as the squashing of all beefs that have ever occurred in the first 5 seasons of Cobra Kai. They have all been effectively resolved by the end of the finale. The entire conflict of this show thus far is the struggle between Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai and just their internal beefing with each other. That essentially was put to bed when we had the revelation that Terry Silver fixed the All Valley tournament in Tori's favor and that he doesn't have any honor or integrity, and his students effectively disowned him as a result. Terry Silver was also put in prison because Stingray recanted his prior police testimony about John Kreese beating him into a coma with his bare hands and revealed that it was actually Terry Silver that did this. So Cobra Kai at the end of season 5 is effectively just no longer in effect. So I guess Cobra Kai does die, because the whole thing is that it doesn't die. Like, Cobra Kai never dies, you know, like the whole thing. There's also a lot of personal conflicts that have been resolved at the end of season 5. Johnny and Daniel, throughout the entirety of season 5, have gone without attempting to murder each other and have actually become, dare I say, friends. It's kind of like wonderful to see, and it actually kind of makes me forget that I hate Daniel LaRusso for a couple seconds, but this season definitely reminded me to the contrary, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Sam and Tori, who have basically gone the entirety of their run on the series thus far hating each other. They're not necessarily friends, but they've come to a better understanding to be able to work together. Robbie and Miguel are not only getting over the fact that one paralyzed the other and then the one had to go to prison for it, they're now actually going to be stepbrothers, and they're friends, and they're getting along. Now, it's not to say that these conflicts can't come back and resurface at any point in the future. It's just the way that the show presented everything and like tied everything up in a neat enough bow. It just felt like there's really no external or internal conflict that would be motivating a story to move forward. Yes, we do have the existence of this international tournament, the Sekai Tenkai. I'm going to mispronounce the fuck out of that going forward in the video, so please just prepare yourself for that. We do have the existence of this international tournament, but that whole involvement of Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang was fueled in large part by the fact that Cobra Kai was going to enter into that tournament, wanted to prevent Terry Silver from spreading his influence of Cobra Kai across the globe. Yes, our characters are presumably going to participate in this tournament going into season 6, but is there like an immediate urging need to do that when Cobra Kai is not externally motivating our characters to do that? Just general impressions talking about Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1. That is a mouthful. I'm gonna love just saying that 50,000 times in this video. It was good. It was good. I liked it, but I didn't like absolutely love everything about it. Kind of hard to tell for sure how to feel about this season thus far because we only have 5 of the 15 episodes, and these 5 episodes are very clearly functioning for the purpose of laying the groundwork, setting the foundation of what's going to happen in the future, so it's hard to make a judgment without seeing the full picture in its entirety at this point. But even just looking at the episodes for what they are, recognizing that they're establishing things that are going to happen in the future, I still feel like the show is falling a little bit flat for me. I think the show for the first time is showing signs that maybe it has overstayed its welcome. And I think that's something that's always a bit of a sore spot for shows that are spin-offs or reboots, because you're constantly trying to justify your existence and show a reason for why the story needs to be told. And I think Cobra Kai in the past has always really successfully done this. This is the first time where I don't really feel that engaged or that like driven forward by the story. Maybe because there's no conflict really, or there's not a lot of like natural internal or external conflict, so as a result it's just like petty tensions that we're dealing with amongst the characters, and it doesn't really feel that engaging. I do think the overall story having to do with the international tournament is a nice driving force, because you see characters are motivated in different ways by the existence of this tournament and their desire to compete and their reasons for wanting to compete, which I think is a nice point. But overall, a lot of the conflicts and a lot of the problems that we're dealing with either feel like things that we've already seen before, or they just feel like characters are acting out of their ordinary way that they would behave just for the purposes of making something happen in the story. I think in the past, this show has always done a good job of balancing between having emotional heart and moments that really make you feel connected to the show and the characters that are being presented, but also having like a self-awareness of more silly aspects and the more over-the-top components to the story, and it creates a balance where, you know, you can lean into the universe, but it's not so unbelievable that it's just hard to watch. And I think for the most part, the 6th season does an okay job of maintaining that balance, but there are certain aspects aspects that feel, even for Cobra Kai, like a little bit ridiculous and over the top, where it makes it feel difficult to buy into what's happening. And then those are juxtaposed to moments that feel very intense and very real. And it's a little bit of a jarring juxtaposition in this season. It's still really funny. It's still really charming and entertaining to watch. The jokes land for me, which is a miracle considering some of the past videos that I've recently made on my channel have to do with How I Met Your Father season 2 and the trailer of that 90s show season 2. Any jokes that remotely land is a welcome surprise, and I am here for it. I think overall, Cobra Kai, the first impression of season 6 is that it's not really gripping me in the way that I would like for it to. Hello, it's me at 12:45 in the morning, and now I have to keep my emotions and my volume at a low enough level so that my fiance doesn't wake up in the other room. Okay, so let's talk about the plot of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1. Now, there's basically 3 things going on in the plot thus far in the story. We have peacetime in the valley. That's something that the show immediately tries to establish in this 6th season. In the first episode, you see people are like high-fiving and chest-bumping each other on their first day back at school. People who literally were like trying to bash each other's head in not 2 seasons ago because of this rivalry between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do. But apparently because everyone is now on the same side, everybody is just cool with each other now. It's almost like all of the years of violence have literally never happened. It's good because that means that the families and the other people living in this region of Southern California can now safely leave their house and commence in outdoor activities without the threat of a karate brawl breaking out randomly at the movie theater or whatever. We also now have the international tournament, the Sekai Tekai. This is like one of the main driving forces for all of the students, the motivating factor of them competing and participating in karate despite the lack of an external threat of an evil karate dojo down the street. Everyone's training for a spot on the international team because we find out in this season that there are 6 slots available per dojo at the international tournament, and of those 6 slots there are 2 team captains. Now, I don't remember what the team captains do that's different from any of the other team members, but apparently it's, either just they get to be a part of the special part of the tournament, or maybe it's just a purely leadership role, whatever the case. Of the 6 people, 2 are picked as captains, 1 male, 1 female, and we know because of nepotism that only certain people are going to be qualifying for this role. And number 3 plot point in this series, at least so far, is the fact that all of the seniors, the people that are, children in this school, have realized that they not only have to, participate in this international tournament, but after they graduate high school, figure out a way to assimilate into society as a functioning adult that doesn't solve their problems by punching each other. I mean, unless if you're Johnny Lawrence, I guess. For most of those students, that means where they're going to go to college and like what activities they can do other than karate gang war to achieve that goal. So I think there are some kind of wonky aspects of the plot and the writing in Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1, at least from what we have seen in these first 5 episodes. I will say on the positive end, I do actually like the international tournament component of this show. I thought at first that it was going to be just like another bigger, badder thing that we have to overcome, kind of like, okay, we had this tournament, now we have a bigger tournament. Isn't that profound? But I actually do like how this tournament is kind of used to explore different characters' motivations for wanting to participate in it. I thought initially that maybe the lack of Cobra Kai presence was going to deflate that impact on the rest of the show, but I do like that the show very confidently establishes for each different character they have a different reason for wanting to train in this tournament. For Tori and Robbie, it's to establish that they are worth something even though they don't think they can go to college. Robbie in particular has never won a tournament yet, so he wants to prove himself as a worthy champion. Dimitri wants to show that he has the confidence to be an actual fighter and not just a backup. Sam wants to get closure and to show and prove herself that she is a worthy opponent against Tori because their last match was tainted by Terry Silver's tampering. Miguel wants to become a captain because it didn't occur to him until right now that he needed to get other extracurricular activities to get into Stanford. And Daniel is looking at this as his swan song of karate, which literally speaking those words into existence makes me want to hurl myself off of the balcony. Beyond the tournament component to the plot, there's really not a lot of conflict going on, and that's something I mentioned earlier. There's no external conflict present isn't because Terry Silver's in jail. John Kreese is a fugitive who is currently not allowed on American soil unless the plot demands it. And as a result, we don't have that rivalry dojo down the street that's, causing commotion and havoc in the valley that we need to band together and fight against. Kind of deflates some of our tension and some of our conflicts that we would normally want to have in a drama/comedy show like this, especially when it's all about fighting. We don't have people that we're fighting against. So as a result, I think this show tends to kind of look towards internal conflicts, but that's also a little bit not super effective in this situation because season 5 also effectively resolved a lot of the internal conflicts amongst our characters. A lot of the people that previously had beef with each other no longer have beef with each other, and it was resolved in a way that felt pretty definitive and even seems still pretty intact at the beginning of the season. So as a result, our sources of conflict tend to kind of boil down to petty conflicts that at this point just seem really repetitive and redundant and reductive and regressive and annoying at this point because we've seen it happen 50,000 times already in this series. One of the big examples of this is, of course, the conflict between Johnny and Daniel. We've seen them disagree several times about their, differing views on karate and their different teaching methods and things like that. And it seems like in season 5, we finally were able to get to a point of stability where, yes, we acknowledge that we have different styles, but we're able to work together nevertheless and recognize the value and the validity in our differing styles of teaching. And then all of a sudden we can't do that anymore because the plot demands that we need to do something. Specific example is at the end of season 5 where Tori is literally attacking Sam because she's so upset that her mother died, and Daniel, for once in his life is rightly doing the right thing and is trying to stop the fight. Johnny, for literally no good reason, is pissed at Daniel for not allowing the fight to continue because he's like, oh, when my mother died, I wanted to beat the hell out of somebody. It's like, well, yeah, that's your student and that's also a child. You shouldn't allow this person to take their anger out on your student just because you felt like you needed to beat the hell out of somebody to get out of your system when your mother died. That is the dumbest reason, even for Johnny standards. But because we needed this relationship ending conflict to occur, we just needed to create something. In reality, neither of these characters would act in that way under these circumstances. So it kind of gets to a point where the conflict kind of becomes exhausting because it feels so contrived and so out of character for how people are behaving. I also kind of am starting to get the sense, and again, we don't know what's going to happen in the remaining episodes, but it starts to feel at this point like maybe this season does not have enough meat and potatoes to justify having 15 episodes. There's a couple aspects of this story, like I said, recycled beef amongst characters just for the sake of creating conflict, and certain rehashed aspects of the story, again, we had an entire episode of Kreese facing his inner demons while trying to fight a snake in the cave in South Korea. But it's okay, we've already seen Kreese address his demons in the past. Do we need to have another story basically reiterating the same things that we already know about this evil villain character from prior seasons? It seems like shit like that is just thrown in just for the purposes of padding the runtime so that we could have this bigger, more badass 15 episode season. We had subplots about Mr. Miyagi that just felt super contrived, and it made Daniel act like an insufferable prick for no reason just because we needed more things to do. If we really cut down to what mattered about the first 5 episodes, we could probably have maybe squeezed it into 2. So maybe this could have been a 12 episode season. But I'm sure there's other parts of the other 10 episodes that could be cut down as well, and realistically this just could have been as long as the other seasons. It would have been just as fine. So I think one of the strengths of Cobra Kai in the past seasons has always been its characters. We're not talking about a Breaking Bad level character development or something like that in this show. It's not the most groundbreaking character writing that we've ever seen. But I think for what it is, the fact that this show is a little campy, the writers of the show always do a very good job of making their positions, not super black and white, but it's oh, there's a difference of opinion, there's a difference of perspective. We understand them, we get where they're coming from, we understand why they are the way that they are. And I think this show continues to do that pretty well with some of its characters, but I think we're also seeing signs of there just being way too many things going on, way too many things trying to be put into this final season, and some of the character development feels a little bit scattered. As I mentioned as well, we have a lot of manufactured conflict and bickering amongst our characters, most notably Johnny and Daniel. I understand misunderstandings between characters. Characters don't always know what we, the audience, know in a given misunderstanding or a given conflict. conflict, right? But I think with Cobra Kai, especially given the fact that these characters have a tendency to solve their problems by beating the living shit out of each other, it is a little maddening and frustrating at a certain point where people have misunderstandings and then just due to no other reason than just how they're written for the sake of creating a conflict, aka just making them unwaveringly stubborn for no reason. It makes it when their conflicts do arise and they are bickering and getting mad at each other, it's just, you just want to shake them a little bit. Can you please just like get your head out of your ass and stop bickering? Because it just makes them seem petty and annoying most of the time. Now, here's the thing. It's 1:05 in the morning. I am simply not going to go through all of the characters in this show and talk about my thoughts and opinions on them. So instead, I have identified my 3 all-stars of season 6 part 1 and my 3 just not all-stars of season 6 part 1. So let's start with the ones that I like, Megan's all-stars of season 6 part 1. I would like to start by talking about my number 1 all-star, Tori Nichols. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. If you thought those words were going to come out of my mouth at any point, even just so much as a couple months ago talking about Cobra Kai, then I would have thought you were crazy. But here we are. Definitely far and away, just given her storyline, especially in the final episode of this part of the season, has the most emotional stakes to deal with in the show. She's not just concerned about this tournament or whatever. She's got some real shit going on. Tori has had a rough upbringing. Her mother is terminally ill with some sort of illness. She has to take care of her brother and her mother. She has to work all the time, and a lot of times that kind of rubs off onto her attitude of like she's been wronged by the world and she feels like she needs to fight back because no one's fighting for her. I think that's a good arc for a character, but prior seasons made Tori a little bit like fucking insufferable with that attitude because there was no counterbalance to her personality. She was just kind of on all the time and it got very annoying. With the 5th season, and I think with this season as well, we're seeing kind of Tori mellow out a little bit and we still have that presence to her personality, but it's done in a much more realistic and approachable way. And I think the writers of the show finally got her right. In season 6, she is managing to accept these Miyagi students as her friends much more so than I thought she was going to, especially given her history with Sam, so I gotta give her credit for that. And then of course in the final episode we see that her mother is on the mend, she's supposedly getting better, and then she just fucking dies from a blood clot, I think, or something crazy like that, and it of course, understandably so, just destroys Tori. Now we don't see Tori just erupt into a fucking nightmare tornado, which she would be justified to do at this point. We've seen her do that over far less, but it manifests in a really interesting way with Tori where she kind of just internalizes it and she's just going through this shock and she's just kind of losing her mind, and it's performed in a really good way. I think Peyton List does a really great job, and I think it feels very appropriate for the character. It feels very realistic. I do think that her decision to just switch on a dime and go to Cobra Kai feels a little bit forced for the sake of having an enemy on the other team for the plot. Don't necessarily know why Kreese would go to the trouble of having Tori when all of these trained South Korean assassins are essentially on his team. And from Tori's perspective, it makes sense that like Kreese was one of the father figures that she didn't really have in her life, somebody that was always fighting for her, at least from her perspective. He is a manipulative piece of shit. I can understand her decision of just, I need to be with somebody who understands who I am right now. So while I don't necessarily think it was written in the most nuanced and like well fleshed out way, it did feel a little bit rushed. I think for her character, it made a lot of sense. So I'm gonna put Tori in the all-star category. What a turnaround. We love to see it. Number 2, Dimitri. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Guys, fuck yeah. I think I called this in my other video that I said it would be wonderful to see Dimitri as one of the finalists, if not the winner, because it would just be a great full circle moment for his character. I don't think he's gonna win. Dimitri is like, I used to hate this motherfucker. He was the most annoying person in the first 2 seasons. He has really turned around. I objectively think he's a good fighter. I think he's got those long limbs like I do, which is very much a strength. He beat Hawk fair and square. I love how he also could not resist the moment to dunk on everybody who's like, oh my god, wait, I completely forgot that I had to apply for college. And Dimitri's like, yeah, I was doing this karate bullshit while getting straight A's, while doing other activities, and I got early admission to MIT. Fuck off. I hope he's in the finals. I know that it's not going to happen because the cowards at Netflix never like to make me happy, but I'm very proud of him. And number 3, I'm going to put on this list for Robbie. I kind of hate Robbie for most of this series. Usually kind of correlates with how bad his hair looks, is like my hatred grows stronger, you know what I mean? But I think they kind of mellowed Robbie out a little bit. I think he does seem to be a very kind and compassionate and trying to do the right thing kind of guy. You see the start of that in season 5, and I think once he kind of buries the hatchet with Miguel at the end of season 5, you see his character kind of turn a bit, and you see, I think, what was underneath all of the bullshit and the hurt and the hate with him, and I think it's finally just coming out that he's just a pleasant human being. This is the first time where I just don't want to punch him squarely in the face. I really am pulling for Robbie to win it all. Like I said, I think it makes the most sense storytelling wise because he hasn't won yet, and I like the idea that he feels like there's nothing else going on in his life. He really just wants to get a win for once, and you know what? I feel like he deserves it. In terms of my honorable mentions, I obviously am going to put Kyler. His whole emotional, motivational speech to Miguel about colleges, as well as the fact that he was basically getting bullied by these fraternity brothers and basically having done to him what he did to all of the students in high school. You know, we love the poetry. We love to see it.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
Now talking about my shit list of season 6 episodes 1 through 5. These are the 3 characters and the honorable mention that I just was very upset with. Let's talk about the one that's not going to surprise anybody, Daniel fucking LaRusso. I still haven't decided if I'm going to cut this portion out and just do a very long-winded rant again, or if I'm just going to speak my truth in this microphone here at 1:13 in the morning. So here's the thing about Daniel. I hate him. If you want to know why, go watch my other Cobra Kai videos and they'll explain in excruciating detail. In season 5, I think Daniel kind of turned a corner a little bit. It seemed, like I said, between him and Johnny that they kind of came to an understanding of, oh, there's different ways to look at karate. Interesting. I never thought of that before. In the 30-something years that I've been practicing martial arts, it didn't occur to me that there's other ways of doing something. For that reason, as well as the fact that he became best friends with my favorite character in the world, Chosen, I felt like Daniel was starting to turn a corner with me. However, in this season... I just wanted to punch him in his stupid face. Daniel and Johnny's relationship is primarily based on this tug of war of we have different styles and we somehow can't remember the fact that that's okay to have different styles as long as we have a good balance. Beginning of the season, Daniel keeps talking about balance, balance, balance. He's a little bit like perturbed by the fact that Johnny is taking some of the Miyagi-Do teachings and taking his own spin on it. But for the most part, he's kind of like keeping it together until, of course, he finds out a big bad secret about Mr. Miyagi and then goes into a fucking tailspin about it. I understand that Mr. Miyagi is your mentor, okay? I understand that sometimes when you find out things about the people that thought that you knew, maybe it might be a little bit difficult to deal with. But you know what? That's what fucking therapy is for, Daniel. I don't want to make it my problem when I'm watching Cobra Kai, okay? I don't want to watch you going into a downward spiral when I could watch people like beating the shit out of each other at the high school. Daniel's whole obsession with Mr. Miyagi and the fact that he's like so butthurt about the fact that Mr. Miyagi like stole something in 1947, it's like, who the fuck cares? He was a teenager or something at the time. Like, obviously he changed into a different person. Mr. Miyagi doesn't owe you every single deep dark secret of his life. That doesn't mean that he didn't care about you. I feel like I should not have to be the one to tell you, a grown ass adult, that this is the reality of the situation, Daniel. But as a result, because he finds this out and it just shatters his reality about Mr. Miyagi, Daniel just turns into a petulant child, and I've just fucking had it. I gave him a chance. I'm like, okay, maybe he's better, but then he showed me that nothing has changed. I will give him credit that he did try to stop the fight with Tori for unselfish reasons, not just because it was against Sam, but overall, could not fucking stand Daniel.
Shut up about Mr. Miyagi. Shut up about Mr. Miyagi.
My second person on my shit list is John Kreese. It's nothing personal. I mean, it kind of is. The thing is with Kreese, okay, he is kind of at this point like a Saturday morning cartoon evil villain. I think that there's like nuance that was introduced to his character at the beginning seasons of the show where we see like he's this damaged Vietnam War veteran who sees everything, including, you know, teaching children karate, as something of like a war. And he has this relationship with Johnny where he does seem to care about Johnny, but there's just a lot of violence and messed up ideals in his brain. And I understand that, and that's fine. I think at this point we have reverted back any sort of progress that we made about Kreese, and now he's just evil again. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to defect to South Korea and then just start my own gang of evil Cobra Kai members to beat the shit out of my former students gang because I have nothing else better to do. It gets to a point where you're starting to wonder, like, again, maybe we should look into the therapy thing. And number 3 on my shit list is Devin Lee. We had such high hopes for you, girl. We were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. I think Devin is an example of a character that they didn't really know what to do with, and they just kind of like did something. I appreciate the fact that Devin is a hyper overachiever, kind of can't really come to terms with any sort of failure or anything like that, and we see that in her personality in the first couple seasons of this show. I just don't fuck with a cheater, you know what I mean? And I feel like when you see Devin in the early seasons, like you see when she like gets eliminated from the tournament in the 4th season, she's like, yeah, I've only been training for a couple weeks. I'm gonna come back and kick everybody's ass and it's gonna be great. She has a sense of confidence about her. The fact that she's like desperate for attention and feels extremely insecure, as well as the fact that she went to the lengths of cheating when she probably could have been a contender, maybe even the final slot by natural means if she didn't cheat, just feels a little bit like a bit of a shift, and we didn't really get the context for why. Like maybe these things were underlying with her, but it just feels like a bit of a switch in the opposite direction. And my honorable mention for my shit list of season 6 episodes 1 through 5 is Johnny Lawrence, which literally pains me to say. Johnny throughout this season, I mean, I think it's kind of like the same song and dance with Daniel where they're like, oh, forgot that, you know, we have different styles and, you know, I just want to feel respected, blah, 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 blah. My beef with Johnny really comes just at the end of the final episode of this whole section where Tori is clearly distraught. Daniel explains to Johnny, her mother just died. This is not a safe situation for anybody involved. We need to stop this fight because this is not appropriate. And then Johnny's like, no, continue fighting. Like, huh? Are you fucking kidding me? I feel like even for Johnny, that was way over the line.
Hey guys, welcome editing Megan. I'm on a lap desk. My laptop is like right here. I have a microphone also on my lap desk and my tripod. So if I cough or sneeze or do literally any sort of instantaneous movement, the entire setup will go to shit. I also have a cold, so I kind of sound like crap right now. I was not anticipating having to film anything else. I didn't realize until after I was reviewing the audio for this section that my random observation segment did not record the audio. So we're gonna have to just refilm it, and if I sound like shit, like I said, it's not my fault. I had a lot of observations in my notebook when I was taking notes about this show that I didn't really know where else to mention them in this video, but I wanted to mention them because, like I said, there are a lot of really chaotic things about Cobra Kai season 6 and just Cobra Kai in general. So I feel like there's a lot of things I want to bring up, but I don't really know where I'll put them. So that's why I have my random observations from Megan's notebook category. We're just going to kind of rapid fire through some of these things really quickly. First of all, Spain, which is where they're going to be having the Sekai Takai, I think I completely forgot at this point even what it was called, but the international tournament is going to be held in Spain. John Kreese is a felon, a wanted criminal in the state of California, which is a state in the United States of America. I believe, based on my very brief Google search, that Spain does have an extradition treaty with the United States. Ergo, if he shows up to Barcelona for this fucking tournament, couldn't LaRusso like call somebody and then have Kreese like picked up and taken into custody at some point? Also, why Spain? Like, why are we doing this tournament in Spain? The person who made the announcement that it was going to be in Barcelona was like, oh, I know that we do these different tournaments in various different Eastern countries because that's where a lot of the strong roots of martial arts tend to be, but it seems like the European countries are kind of mixing it up, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool, that's fine, let's do it in a different country, that's great. But they made it seem like Barcelona in particular was like this massive announcement. I just felt like it was kind of funny. Everyone's like, oh shit, it's Spain, and I'm like, okay. Everyone in the background of the high school scenes looks like they're approximately 27 years old. I was watching a scene of like Devin and Kenny walking through the hallway in high school, and the guys behind them look like they would have been like way past their prime if they were at a college party or something, you know what I mean? So it's just really funny to me. I don't know. Why did these people who have trained all of their lives in karate give a shit about Kreese catching the snake? As it is, that storyline feels very detached from everything else going on, so it just kind of feels like filler at this point. But just realistically speaking, it seems like they have their Master Kim, who ironically that was the name of my master when I was doing Taekwondo. Not any relationship, I don't believe, because this person seems a little bit evil. But they have their Master Kim and they have his daughter, Scary Lady. So why do they need Kreese? I know that Kreese trained with them when he was in South Korea in the past. I don't know. You guys seem like you're set. I don't know why you need this insane former war veteran to come in and catch a snake for you. I don't think he's necessarily bringing anything additional to the table. The logo that Penis Breath made, I have no questions about it. I just think it's iconic. The new Miyagi-Do logo, I think this is one of the sickest logos logos that they could have possibly made. I love the Miyagi logo as it is, and then having the little eagle in the background, I thought that was a really great touch to acknowledge Johnny's past and his influence on the dojo, as much as Daniel just hates to admit that it even exists. I am, like, I'm not gonna brag, but like, I did almost consider going to school for graphic design in college, so I do have an affinity for the graphic design arts, if you will, and I thought it was really cool looking. I love that Miguel and Robbie managed to not piss me off too much. Now, I was concerned that just because they had come to an understanding in the 5th season, I was concerned that they were going to fall immediately back out just for the purposes of creating conflict in this season. There were moments where Miguel was acting like a brat, but Robbie resisted and did not punch him square in the face. And even when Robbie did win for the captain position for the tournament, they managed to like high things up and be like, yeah, no hard feelings, it's totally fine. Like, I appreciate that the show is kind of flirting with the idea of making them enemies again, but kind of turned it back around and showed that they ultimately had respect for each other. How the fucking fuck would Amanda LaRusso get a call from the hospital about Tori's mother? What in the name of HIPAA compliance is going on with these fucking hospitals in this area? It will never not be funny to me that the person who paralyzed a student at the school is now allowed to attend said school, as well as the person who started the fight resulting in someone being paralyzed. We know that Tori is already allowed to go to school from season 4, but the fact that now Robbie is allowed to attend this school, he still paralyzed a student. He literally pushed him off a fucking balcony and then went to juvie for it. I mean, it seems like Robbie and Miguel are good, so I guess it's like, if he doesn't have a problem, why should anyone else? But like, he did like paralyze a student, and they're like, yeah, here's your welcome booklet, man, welcome back. I love that Mike Barnes, when he's like helping train the Miyagi students, says to Daniel, wow, this place looks kind of different since the last time I was here. And then they immediately cut to a scene where Mike Barnes is beating the shit out of Daniel and then putting his foot on his throat. It's like, yeah, remember all the good times we had here? Immediately cuts to him trying to murder Daniel. I thought that was really funny. The baby shower. Oh my... I didn't even register this the first time that I was watching it, when I was watching with my fiance a couple weeks ago, but the fact that they had 2 babies, each wearing a little karate uniform, one with a pink belt and one with a blue belt. I don't know. The fact that they had Coors, the drinks that Johnny likes to drink all the time, and they had like, is it a pink Coors or a blue Coors? You know, they just stick to a theme to a fault, and I think that is so fucking funny. Imagine being one of the regular ass people at this dojo. It kept making me laugh. Like, they established at some point halfway through the season, like, yeah, okay, so only 6 of you are going to be able to advance to go to Barcelona and represent our dojo, which makes sense because they have like 35 people, and that would be insane to let everybody participate in the tournament. But even after like all the riffraff is eliminated from consideration, they're like, yeah, but you still have to show up and basically be these like human punching bags for the students that we actually care about. Like, I know you're developing camaraderie and you want to help support these students, but it just, I would be pissed off at a certain point. Also, for the fact that like a third of the people that were in the top 12 for consideration as one of the top 6 Barcelona slots was related as a son or daughter or a son-like figure to one of the leaders of the dojo, and then 3/4 of the people who were in contention for the captain position were also sons or daughters of the leaders of the dojo. It's like, hello, nepotism, anyone? And then finally, where the fuck is Chosen? Guys, where'd he go? Why did you send him away?
How could you do this to me? Question mark.
I know that they were trying to make it like, oh, Chosen's kind of not in his element right now because what's her name didn't respond to his voicemail. Like, okay. But are we really going to send the best thing that's ever happened to this show back to Okinawa right before the fucking tournament? Like, he's already been instrumental enough in getting us to this point. Why can't he just chill with us in Barcelona and then go back to Okinawa? Like, why can't you get a connecting flight to Spain on your way back to Japan? Like I mentioned in my last video, I wanted to kind of make this a continued thing throughout my coverage of season 6 of Cobra Kai. Created a tier list talking about like my preseason power rankings for my predictions of how powerful or good fighters I think all these characters would be in season 6. And I wanted to kind of update you guys on what my predictions are after watching the first 5 episodes of season 6. I'm gonna say not much has necessarily changed in my tier list. There have been a couple shifts that I would like to discuss. Most notably, Dimitri has made his way from very good sir to champ-worthy fighter because he is one of the 6 that is in the finalist slot to compete in Barcelona. Now, I've seen people online be like, oh, it's complete bullshit that Hawk didn't get in and Dimitri did. Now, I'm gonna say it's bullshit that Hawk didn't get in because he is an All-Valley champion who won fair and square against Robbie. But I'm not gonna say it's bullshit that Dimitri did get in because he did beat the All-Valley champion fair and square. Do I think that Hawk is maybe more deserving as Devin than Devin,
who cheated and has literally not that much experience compared to him, yeah, Hawk didn't win, okay? Dimitri took advantage of the situation, and that's what you're supposed to do. I have also decided to move Sam and Tori up into this category because despite the strong sense of nepotism in the Miyagi Fang dojo, I will say that it seems like Sam and Tori, just as much as Miguel and Robbie, had a monopoly on literally every single competition that transpired in this dojo to determine who should be competing. So I feel like they are more than worthy to be in their champ-worthy fighter category. Now, I have also shifted Hawk down to very good sir, not because I don't think he's a very good fighter. I mean, he did get beaten out by a lot of the other students in this category. He did get beaten out by Dimitri and Miguel and Robbie and Tori and Sam. So it's just basic math, you know what I mean? I did move Anthony into straight up decent as well as penis breath. They did make it to the final 12 finalists to be able to determine who goes to Barcelona, so I will give them that. I did keep Devin in straight up decent rather than putting her up in the champ worthy fighter, even though she is in the final six, mainly because she cheated. I don't know where she would have shaken out in this tier list if she didn't cheat, and I just want to punish cheaters because I don't like cheaters. Terry Silver's still in prison, so we have to keep him in that category, but pretty much everyone else kind of stayed where they're at. Obviously, as we'll see the results of these tournaments in the next 5 episodes, which are going to release in, I think, November. I think they moved the date up 2 weeks for some fucking reason. I don't know what's going on with the marketing for the show. We'll find out more as to who we think should be put in what category. This is I think a pretty good synopsis of the fighters thus far. Okay, I need to stop because it's 1:40 in the morning. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what you think of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1. I was very excited to talk about this video, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the next 10 episodes. I think it's going to be unhinged as hell, but that's why I love Cobra Kai, and I feel like that's why everyone does. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens next. In the meantime, I'm going to go to bed and pay attention to my cat too, because otherwise she's going to murder me in my sleep. So bye.